warranted from my perspective.
Right. Now let's move on to some other issue. We're having a Showdown looms as court reinstates Elachi as Nairobi senator. I would like your opinion on that one, Mr. Osido. And this, we saw some dramatic footage earlier just related to this story, but MCAs have vowed to reject Beatrice Elachi after the court quashed her impeachment yesterday. What do you feel?
You know, the problem with this country is communication.
Right.
How we communicate with and to one another, and how we sort out our differences. Because one of the gaps which I would recommend for counties and any institution that seeks to resolve conflicts is opportunities to negotiate and opportunities to even have conversations that go on beyond a court process.
Yes.
Not to say that that would be going beyond the powers of the court, but just to find out how do we deal with this issue in the event that I win my case and you lose your case. Because the case of Mheshimiwa Elachi now presents that very clear opportunity for us to look at. Yes, MCAs are saying, the county assembly members are saying, we will not accept you, but the court has already made a ruling.
How would you ideally see this playing out?
Of course, there's going to be drama at the assembly, and that is going to be stirred by the absence of a platform to negotiate and say, what would happen if the court, if the court says I come back to the assembly? Because ultimately there is a reason as to why a speaker of the county assembly exists.
Yes.
And there is a reason why the county assembly members exist. And all these boil down to the place of the citizens, because citizens are looking for frameworks, legislations that are going to be brought to the assembly to be able to provide amicable environments for them to do their businesses, for them to be able to receive services, and those services being delivered by the executive, which is the county government. Unfortunately, when we have wars and all these conflicts, then that really takes out the energy, it takes out the time, and even the resources that would then be used. So my proposal would be that the sitting speaker, my friend Mheshimiwa Chege Mwaura, and his team, and Beatrice Elachi and her team really find out a way of sitting down and engaging. Of course, this has been tried before. I remember people expected His Excellency the President to also make his voice, to count on this issue. Unfortunately, he decided to go silent. But of course, on the sidelines, there were, efforts that were being made to ensure that the County Assembly of Nairobi really does its work. But then lastly is that Nairobi City County Assembly is not just like any other assembly. You cannot compare this assembly to any other assembly of the 46 counties. So the City County Assembly of Nairobi needs to set the example that we ought and need to see, so that we make devolution work and make it work for the citizens of this great republic.
Mr. Aaron, what do you feel about this one, the looming showdown between the...
Basically, if you look at this kind of stories, it's been very consistent and very, very spread out. If it is not the governor, it is the speaker. If it is not the speaker, it is somebody else in that chain. What it tells you is that in most cases when the stories come out, you get the feeling that some of the MCAs or members of the county parliaments feel aggrieved when probably their interests are not taken care of. What that then tells me is that there is need to have some additional structures of some sort that ensures that even if the individuals that are within the county assemblies, that even when they are a bit aggrieved or when there's an issue, the first course of action is not to run and get the speaker out. I think there's a loophole somewhere that needs to be tightened.
Or sealed. Now, before I go to you, Mr. Kong, I'll read a quote here. It says, "Inasmuch as we respect the court ruling, it cannot force an employee on an employer." This is, of course, an MC, Mr. Guyo, saying that. Tell me, what do you feel about this coverage of the story?
I think the problem we have here is a political one. The county assembly is split just the same as the Jubilee party right now is having internal issues, and I think they're split along political lines, and that is now playing out in the county assembly. And if this is not sorted, then the work of the assembly is going to come to a standstill.
And that's why you're having a majority leader, Abdi Guyo, explaining his view. Now, on page 11, I don't know if you guys have seen a video going around online of the deputy president and members of the African Divine Church, from mostly a majority of them centered in the Western region, having quite a bit of a jig right there, a religious dance right there. And it is really, really interesting. It has gone viral. We have had a lot of debates about how Ruto should operate and whether he should be working with the church. Mr. Okongo, when you see this kind of, the picture is actually interesting, but the video is even better. Unfortunately, we can't, make it play on the paper, but just tell me what you feel about this one.
I think Ruto is smart. I think he knows how to make news.
Yeah.
He knows that right now, anything he does will draw cameras.
Yes.
And this, I think, also is in response to
cameras,
a response to the mainstream churches saying we don't need your money.
Right, because the African Divine Church is actually not a very mainstream church. So the fact that and you would see it was a mass of people, not just the few that have been pictured here. Aaron, what do you feel about this one?
I think that Ruto is a master politician.
Yeah.
I think he's
he might be onto something with
this. Yes, he's directly communicating to a populace that is not the normal electorate that he normally speaks to.
That is often left out, because you do not see a lot of politicians trying to appeal to this type of crowd. But
I think this is a very good
front and center, dancing with them, and they are happy to see him. I mean, you should see the video. If you haven't, please go online and just search for it. Mr. Osido, how do you feel about this one?
With due respect, the Deputy President is being a bad boy in the House.
Really?
Yes, because His Excellency the President has already made a pronouncement on issues, campaigns, and issues, Harambes, and all these issues against the Big Four agenda.
Right.
And if he wanted to be a very good supporter and like a deputy to the President, then I think it is only fair that he engages within the terms and limits that the head of the House has already put to the fore. But again, I have to say that politically speaking, he is turning out as a very smart operator, and he knows where to go and fetch for votes, whether or not it's related to 2022. But 4,000 people sitting together to listen to you, and you're right in the middle dancing, because I have watched that video. I think it's something really worth thinking about. Unfortunately, I am told that they were ferried from Western Kenya into Karen.
Wow.
I would have loved this to happen right at the place where the people come from. But again, give it to him. He has learned this from his political masters.
The fact that they took them all the way to Nairobi, to some people, that is a lot.
I know it is.
Probably, maybe somebody that was wouldn't have afforded that trip, and then you're bringing them over, a meeting with the Deputy President. I mean, even if it's not officially a campaign, still it sort of appeals to the people that you're meeting with.
They were
and
happy, from the video, they really looked. The dancing was more than 4 minutes, and that's not
they were smiling from ear to ear.
You don't find the Deputy President dancing for that long.
It was pretty cool to see. Actually, I think he might be onto something with this one. Now, we're having